Hey everybody, it is Joe from Gadgetry Tech, and in today's video we're going to talk about the active noise cancellation version of the Audeze Maxwell 2, which I reviewed several months ago. If you want a full in-depth review about everything new on the Maxwell 2, be sure to take a look at that video. I will have a link in the description below. This is going to recap some of that, and it's also going to focus on some unique things with the ANC model, because it's not just the fact that it has ANC. It does affect the sound quality and the behavior, and there are a couple other changes as well that we're going to get into. Before I get any further, Audeze did send this to me for review, so huge thanks to them. It won't affect what I say about it. I didn't get paid to make this video, and I'm not going to use any special marketing affiliate links or anything like that. I might have like a generic affiliate link with Amazon added at one point, but the normal stuff will be added as they become available, because this video is coming out on the embargo lift date. In terms of pricing, this has a retail price of $429 if you buy the PlayStation version, and the Xbox version has a retail price of $449. So it's a $100 increase over the older Maxwell 2. I say older now because it has been out for a few months. So with that, if you buy the Xbox version, just like before, it will still work on PlayStation. You're just paying extra because Xbox has a special chip for the encryption module. And any of these versions, whether it's PlayStation or Xbox version, will still work on PlayStation, of course, as well as PC. Your mobile device, because of Bluetooth and the analog connection as well. There's a 3.5 millimeter connection, and that cable is included. Now, you also get the transmitter. The transmitter, regardless of which version you buy, is a USB-C transmitter. If you have an Xbox, they do include a USB-C to A cable in the box. This is included on the PlayStation version and the Xbox version. And there's a little switch that will be on the transmitter. If you buy the Xbox version, the switch will say Xbox instead of PS, and then you'll have your other, which will work on PC, PlayStation, etc. So if you're playing on Xbox, you will have to use this cable. I don't think it looks as nice as some other headset solutions out there, having that thing hang from the front of the console. But if you plug it in on the back, I guess it won't be so bad. Now, a big question was, does this have simultaneous Bluetooth? And I'm going to say yes if you use the wired connection, because it does not have simultaneous Bluetooth with the wireless connection using this transmitter. So it is what it is. That's just the chipset they chose. They wanted it for audio performance reasons, and with that comes from losing simultaneous Bluetooth. So they were chasing clarity. You know, there's a longer discussion on supply chain and cost and performance and all of these things. It's beyond my pay grade. I'm not designing the headset. I frankly, as a consumer, wish it had simultaneous wireless with the Bluetooth, but it does not, regardless of what version you buy, active noise cancellation or not. There were some improvements with the microphone performance compared to the older Maxwell, and frankly a lot of other headsets out there. This microphone sounds pretty damn awesome. This is with the noise reduction system turned off, which has a softer level, and by doing that it's not overboosting the mic signal. So to me it's the cleanest way it can sound, but you can have some background noise as a result. So if I double press this little button right above the mic, the AI NR filter will go to low, and I am significantly louder. If you are a very loud speaker, you really have to back the microphone up away from your voice or your mouth, so you're not overloading the signal, because I think it boosts it a little bit too much. I still hope that in future firmware updates they tame this just a little bit more, but overall this is a pretty good performing microphone, provided you know where the limits are in terms of overall volume coming out of your mouth. So let's quickly go over a few changes, at least cosmetically, from the Maxwell 2 that's been out in the past. Now, they have the same exact strap system. You can see that the font right here is using a lighter font on the active noise cancellation model, and that kind of carries over with the yoke system, because instead of the black finish here, it's a lighter silver. Everything else is basically the same, except when we get to the pads. Now, I should actually mention, this is a ReSkin. This is a really cool way to customize your headset, and these faceplates also work on the non-active noise cancellation version, although they do have optimized versions of these for the noise cancellation, because you have to have a hole for the microphone system. So be sure to get the ANC enhanced version of the plates. There's a huge variety of different plates online. They sell for $30. I hope that they add more, because it's kind of cool, but there are some unique ones out there, and I like a few in particular, and this one's one of them because it's, you know, showcasing the planar driver. They have a vintage one that's really cool too. You can remove them entirely, just like the old one. So if you're trying to reduce weight as much as possible, I actually think even without the plate, it looks really slick. So that's optional. It's just attached with magnets. You can either rotate to make it easier, or if you press in at the top, it kicks it out. and then you're good to go. Now, one big change is the pads, which was a shocker. The pad mounting system is identical. And I'm going to tell you now, I could not measure all the pads. When we get into sound quality, you're going to understand why. I haven't had this headset long enough to measure all the pads because I actually wanted to use the headset prior to this review. The mounting mechanism is identical. However, the active noise cancellation pad is completely different in terms of overall dimensions to the older one, or at least the Maxwell 2 non-active noise cancellation. They're basically the exact same height. The ANC version is more narrow by 10 millimeters, but it's about 5 millimeters more deep on the front and back. Clamp force is increased as a result of this. It's about a 19% increase in clamp force, bringing it to 6.2 newtons of force or pressure. It might sound like a lot, but I think it's actually quite necessary for this headset for a couple reasons. One, it gets more consistent noise cancellation performance because if there's a little bit more pressure on your head, it maintains a seal and the ANC works more consistently and frankly just better. It also makes the headset feel more secure on your head. If you recall my pad video, because I did release Stealth Pads and Wicked Cushions has FreZe Pads and Dakoni has pads for these. But the stock pads, it's nice that they're really open, but the lower clamp force, even when I'm wearing a hat, if I look up and down, I can feel the headset shift a little bit, partly because the pads are more open and the clamp force is on the lighter side, considering how heavy the ear cups are. This new one having slightly deeper pads, really welcome change there. The improved clamp force and the smaller opening, it's still big enough. This is on the larger side of openings in general, especially when you consider the depth with it, but it's significantly more secure in my head. So I do like the new ANC pads more than the standard Maxwell pads. Again, I'll have a follow-up video on all the pad measurements because that alone is probably going to be 20 plus minutes long because I did get the Dakoni pads and I will be measuring all 4 pads on both models and we'll go over all the sound quality changes and comfort and things like that. General rule applies. If you want more noise isolation, then go with something that uses leatherette or leather. The FreZe Pad is kind of in the middle for noise cancellation. The StealthZ Pads that I created for a lot of headsets are much more breathable, and therefore they also reduce some bass, but the idea of that is a very breathable pad for at-home listening. It also makes the soundstage kind of open up. So we'll cover that in more detail at another video. But the only other thing that I guess is a real noticeable change of this, it's small, but it's probably just because of the pad thickness. This weighs 586 grams. It's about 10 grams heavier than the old one. We're really close to 600 grams. That's quite heavy. This larger strap and the softer pads, it wears well. Despite the weight, I can still wear this for quite a long period of time. I'm used to some heavier headphones in general, so to me, I wasn't really fazed as much by this. But if you're coming from a less expensive like SteelSeries headset, the difference in weight, I mean, that's over twice the weight, or like the Astro and Logitech stuff. This is noticeably heavier than some more budget-friendly lightweight headsets out there. So, noise cancellation. Let's quickly cover that. I didn't measure this yet, but the ANC performance is pretty exceptional. It is significantly better than basically any gaming headset that I've used. It has better low frequency noise isolation performance and ANC reduction. So if you're comparing it to something like the new Turtle Beach Stealth Pro 2 or the SteelSeries Arctis Nova Pro Omni, which is a $400 headset, those guys still have great ANC performance. This is better in terms of noise reduction, pure noise reduction. The one downside with the ANC on this is there is white noise. It's a little bit of a consistent hiss. If you have sensitive hearing and you're concerned about that, the hiss is there. It's a different hiss than what you have on the Maxwell 2 non-ANC version, which mine doesn't really do. Now keep in mind, if you have microphone side tone enabled, which to me still does not sound good on either of these, so I would not enable it. If you have it on, all you have to do is press and hold this button right above the mic for a few seconds, and you'll hear the prompt that tells you the side tone is turned off. That cuts pretty much all of the side tone or the hiss sound that I got on the Maxwell 2 original version. The ANC version behaves the same way. The hiss slightly comes back when the side tone's enabled. Side tone is still weak, but when you enable the active noise cancellation or put it in transparency mode, you do get some white noise. Transparency mode works okay. That's where you can hear your environment. Believe it or not, the standard Maxwell will isolate more than this in transparency mode. So if you want to hear your surroundings, you can actually get the ANC model, enable transparency mode, and people can't hear what you're hearing, but you'll be able to hear what they hear. There is some processing and artifacting. It doesn't sound as natural as what I get on Sony's InZone H9 II, for example. I think that is the benchmark for transparency mode or ambient mode. But this at least still helps, kind of opens the door to hear your surroundings. Now, all of the ANC stuff, it actually changes the sound quality and the frequency response of this headset, and measuring it is an even bigger challenge because of it. And that's partly because there's a chip inside that constantly adjusts for different changes in noise. And if you do a traditional sine sweep that I do at frequency response measurements, that's not how normal music sounds. So the chip starts to compensate and it actually changes the frequency response a little bit in the bass region. And if you're measuring it, you can get inconsistent results, especially if your volume levels change of that sine sweep. I'm getting into the scientific stuff, but this is a Brüel & Kjær 5128. It's a really accurate way of measuring headphones. And I have a new website called headphonedatabase.com, which includes a huge amount of specs and information on headsets, as well as frequency response measurements for you to compare products from A to B, for example. So when we measure this, there are different ways to do this. I mentioned the ANC being an issue with compensating for a sine sweep. So there's something called an RTA where I can basically just play white noise in this case, and I will be just capturing the peaks. I run white noise, the white noise generator playing through the headset. I record the output of that, and then after a while of recording the peak, I export the peak as a measurement. Then I reposition the headset and I do it again. This is not a traditional way of measuring a headset, but it can produce more consistent frequency response measurements for something like this that's actively compensating for sound. So because of that, that measurement looks a little bit more jaggedy. And if you measure this with a standard sine sweep, especially in the bass region, like I think it's 100 to 250 hertz, it measures a little bit lighter doing a sweep, or sorry, heavier doing a sweep. Whereas with white noise, it more accurately represents what the bass profile is out of the box. Again, this is why I couldn't measure all the pads prior to this, because the RTA method plus sine sweep plus ANC on versus off, it is extremely time consuming. It took hours to do just that. And this is all using the Audeze preset. If you do bass boost naturally, it lifts the low frequencies just like treble boost, and the immersive preset does both. So the frequency response, it's interesting because it actually measures and sounds like it has a little bit less bass than my Maxwell 2. And this is further amplified by enabling or disabling ANC, because if you turn off ANC, I thought it actually sounded better because the higher frequencies, like I think there's a peak, it's right about 2900 hertz, it's lower on ANC off. If you enable ANC, it brightens up the treble. And with that lighter bass profile, I honestly am not a huge fan of the Audeze preset sound profile. That's my personal preference. I'm just going to lay that out there now. I like it better with ANC off, but if you want ANC, I would just take the 4 kilohertz band and drop it by 2 extra decibels, 3 extra decibels, because it's about a 2.5 decibel change. Drop it by a few, and that gets you closer to ANC off. So I just want to throw that out there. Now, the other interesting thing is, I got a consistent channel mismatch throughout the frequency spectrum, like 20 to 20,000 hertz. There was a very consistent mismatch from the left and right channel, regardless of the testing method that I did, whether it was RTA or sine sweep, and whether ANC was on or off. So that tells me it's likely one of two things. I don't think it's the pads. It could be the pads, but I really don't think it is. Or it's a DSP issue, and maybe with a future firmware update, the driver matching will get better, because you can clearly see by as much as 3 or 4 decibels at higher frequencies, there's a channel mismatch. And this is after averaging a minimum of 5 to 10 seedings per measurement. Like some of these represent 10 measurements averaged out. So I try to get rid of any positional variance as a consistency issue. Very interesting result. That's not like the regular Maxwell 2. The Maxwell 2's imaging is like impeccable, and the driver matching is excellent. I think the driver matching is still good here, but it's either DSP or there's something different behind one of the ear cups or both that's changing the way the driver interacts with the cup. I didn't take this apart, and I would assume it's a DSP thing because a lot of this is chip-based sound processing to get the sound profile that they want. It's not all mechanically tuned. So again, I think a future firmware update is going to change this, but in its current iteration, I think the standard Maxwell 2 sounds better out of the box, and it does not have the channel imbalance issue. This is really important for positional awareness if you're using it for gaming and FPS. I think the standard Maxwell 2 is better for that. And for certain music, of course, you want a really cohesive presentation from left and right. And if your peaks and dips are shifting as the frequency response changes, you get an inconsistent listening experience, and you might not get that voice dead center the way you want, especially if they change octaves in their voice. It kind of shifts the balance a little bit. So that's an interesting thing. And that brings me over to subjective sound quality. It's similar at heart to the Maxwell 2, especially with ANC off. So some people won't even hear the channel imbalance. I listen to these very critically because that's my job. And I noticed it. The general idea is the same though. You still get that incredible resolution and clarity that Maxwell is known for, or Audeze headphones are known for. You really hear every subtle detail, and I still don't think there's a gaming headset out there that approaches the clarity of any of the 3 Maxwell iterations. They're really in a league of their own, purely on the clarity side. And my issue, though, is the tuning of this, especially in the default Audeze preset with ANC on. It really was just not as enjoyable for music. I kind of lost some of the essence of what I loved about Maxwell, just that glorious slammy bass with tons of sub bass, really good texture, the vocal clarity, the natural timbre that it had. It was really like the Maxwell 1 just completely upended the headset market. And the 2's made a lot of improvements in certain areas. The mic, for example, comfort improvements. I think the controls are a lot nicer. I didn't cover this earlier, but these knobs are great. So there's a lot of good things here, but I think the Maxwell 2 needs EQ more, especially the ANC version, to get to what its true potential is. Again, for my personal taste. Otherwise, I think it's a little bit bright and it's a little bit grating sounding in the treble. And it might come across as harsh, but I think it's just because I've heard how good these can be. And this is a little bit of a departure from that in the treble. So I'm going to have a follow-up video, I think, when hopefully more firmware updates come out. And I just, it's hard because the folks at Audeze are nice people. They make a great product. And I just feel like waiting for the firmware updates to fix certain things at launch, it's just puts a bad taste out there. So I just want to be level with you all, and I hope that a firmware update comes sooner or later, if that's something fixable or not. Now, I think that basically wraps it up. There is one cool feature I almost forgot to mention, is that this has head tracking built in. The sensor that was in the older Maxwell 1, they actually have a motion sensor inside for head tracking. And there's a program out there called Hive 2 from Embody, and it's $15 a year or $40 for 5 years. And there are games with unique headset profiles and everything, like Call of Duty, Witcher, Sea of Thieves. If you put this headset on and enable the spatial tracking feature, as you move your head around, it changes the soundstage in your head, which is super cool. I haven't used it on this one yet. I've done demos with the older one, and the technology is incredible, but I didn't get all, this is like a pre-launch thing, so all the software and updates haven't fully baked out yet. So I haven't been able to try everything on it, but that technology is in here, and I didn't see it advertised anywhere on the older Maxwell 2. So if I missed that and I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. But this is the first time I've seen that head tracking stuff be announced again. And so I would assume it's unique to the Maxwell 2 with ANC. And with all that being said, that takes us to the end of the review / maybe preview, because I think this will get a little bit better over time. Now that I have this, I am going to be doing my flagship roundup video soon, finally. I was really just waiting for the ANC because I didn't want to just add a supplementary video later. So I'll be comparing both Maxwell 2s to the latest and greatest from StealthSeries, Turtle Beach, Astro, you name it. And we'll finally see how all of these high-end headsets stack up against each other. This is still the king in terms of pure sound quality and resolution, but I think it actually needs a little bit more EQ, and I like the improvements on the microphone. I think the controls are great, and the thicker pad helps with comfort. So not any one headset's perfect, but the Maxwell is certainly its own unique performer in a few key areas. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this helpful. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you at the next one. Take care.